Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. TV Sai Krishna. Today we will be learning about what are the types of attacks. Types of attacks generally in cryptography and network security, we have two types of attacks. They are passive attacks and active attacks. So first, we will see what are the different categories in this passive and active attacks. The passive attacks we have release of message contents, traffic analysis. Whereas in the active threats we have masquerade, replay, modification of message contents, denial of service. So what is passive attack? For example, the sender Bob is there here and the receiver is Alice. Bob want to send the message to Alice. So in the meanwhile, uh, some third person will be coming in the middle. For example, a person named Dad. So what this third person will do, he will read the contents of the message from Bob to Elise. Next one. Here, when you carefully observe here, the traffic analysis is being there. So the Bob is going to send the message to Elise through internet or other common communication facilities. So the third person he is going to observe the pattern of the message, how they are sending from Bob to Alice. So coming to masquerade, what is actually masquerade? Masquerade takes place when one entity pretends to be another entity. It means one entity is going to be looking like some other entity. So here, if you can see here, the Bob and Alice, they are going to be communicated actually. So, but in the meanwhile, a third person that will come here and here the message from dad that appears to be from Bob to the Elise. So Elise thinks that the message is actually sent by the Bob. But what happens in reality is the message is sent from the dad to Elise. Next, coming to what is replay. Replay involves the passive capture of a data unit and its subsequent retransmission to produce an unauthorized effect. Here you can see the Bob is sending a message to Alice. In the meanwhile, a third person called Dad is going to the capture message from Bob to Alice. Later, he will replay the message to Alice. So here, replay means involving the passive capture of a data unit and its subsequent retransmission to produce an unauthorized effect. Next, what is modification of message? Modification of message actually means that some portion of a legitimate message is altered. Here you can see that Bob is sending a message to Alice, but in the meanwhile, the third party Dart is going to capture the message. That means some portion of the legitimate message is captured by the Dart, the third person, and he is going to modify the message from Bob to Alice. What is denial of service? A denial of service is any type of attack where the attackers or the hackers attempt to prevent legitimate users from accessing the service. Here you can see whenever the communication that should be takes place from the Bob to Alice, here the attack here the hacker by the name Dat he is going to disrupt the service provided by the server. So he is not able to give the service from the server. So they are going to prevent legitimate users from accessing the service. What is the anatomy of an attack? That means we can say structure of an attack. So if you see an attacker, who is an attacker? Someone outside your network perimeter who is trying to break in. So some person will be coming from the outside of your network, and he will be trying to break the actual network. He is called as an attacker. Regular user has an inside view. If you see any regular user who is going to use this network regularly over the period of time, he is going to have an inside view. So overwhelming majority originate from inside. So attacker is an outside person. So here what an attacker is going to do is he is going to collect the information, he is going to probe the network, and he is going to launch an attack. How he is going to collect the information? Let us see. For example, XYZ is the user that wants to attack your network. Here, what is a question that is going to start with? Question is where to start. So, in order to get it, he has to do some investigative work about your network. So, he want to analyze the network, analyze about your network. So, how the network is and what are the different factors that make us to attack the network. Like that, he is going to do some investigation on your network. The first thing it can do is to run the whois query. It is live and authoritative. Whois means here a query to the inter NIC. So it actually what does it do is it maintains the publicly accessible database of all registered domains. It can be searched with simple query. Who is domain name? So whenever you are going to type this who is domain name, you are going to get the particular network thing. Next, the organizational domain name. What is the location of that organization? The organization's administrative contact, the phone number and fax number for the administrator. A valid subnet address within the organization. These are all will be coming here. What is organization domain name? It is important because anyone can use it to collect the further information. For example, any host associated with this name will be an extra information. For example, www.pugc.edu.pk. Next, mail.pugc.edu.pk. Now, this host will be used as keyword to use when forming future queries. Here, what they are going to do is they are going to make use of some alteration. Now, what is physical location? Knowing physical location of organization. So, might get temp job, offer his consulting services. Once he is in, he might be granted certain level of permission to resources. So, first, they are going to know the physical location of organization? They will be getting some temporary job, offering his consulting services. Once he is in, he might be granted certain level of permission to resources. He might try to backdoor into network. So wants to do dumpster diving. Who, who, what, when, where, and why. They may dump sensitive information at trash, write passwords at temp places, not separating trash from rest for recycling. So how do they contact the admin? Individual responsible for maintaining network is called an admin. This is very useful for physical hacking. For example, he calls as member of help desk and asks, "Hey, you have asked me to check for your certain account. There is some problems. What's your password?" Dangerous for such organizations who don't have the tendency to change passwords frequently. Email is also a valid attack for this content. For sending spoofed mail that contains some hostile code if email is activated there. Valid subnet mask. Last information of who is an IP address entry for domain. Getting an IP address of same subnet ensures that others will be at the same place. So IP spoofing attack can be sent. Now we will see what are the four categories of attacks. First one access, second one modification, third one denial of service, fourth one reputation. So what is access attack? An access attack is an attempt to gain information that the attacker is unauthorized to see. This attack can occur wherever the information resides or may exist during transmission. This type of attack is an attack against the confidentiality of the information. For example, snooping, eavesdropping, interception, all this will be coming under access attack. Next, confidentiality can be compromised through snooping. What is snooping? Snooping in a security context is unauthorized access to another person's data or company's data, not necessarily limited to gaining access to data during its transmission. Casual observation of an email that appears on others' computer screen or watching what someone else is typing. Eavesdropping. Being invisible on a public channel can be considered eavesdropping. To gain unauthorized access to information, position himself at a location where the information is likely to pass. Confidentiality can be compromised through interception. Unlike eavesdropping, interception is an active attack against the information. When an attacker intercepts information, he is interesting himself in the path of information and capturing it before it reaches its destination. So, after examining the information, the attacker may allow the information to continue to its destination or not. Next, what is a modification attack? A modification attack is an attempt to modify information that an attacker is not authorized to modify. This type of attack is an attack against the integrity of the information. Integrity can be compromised through changes, insertion, deletion. Next, denial of service attacks. DOS attacks are attacks that deny the use of resources to legitimate users of the system, information, or capabilities. Excuse me. What are the denial of service methods? Flooding a network, thereby preventing legitimate network traffic. Disrupting a server by sending more requests than it can possibly handle, thereby preventing access to a service. Preventing a particular individual from accessing a service. Disrupting service to a specific system or person. So the denial of service attacks can be done against the information, they can be done against the applications, they can be done against the systems, they can also be done against the communications. Reputation attacks. Reputation is an attack against the accountability of the information. Reputation is an attempt to give false information or to deny that a real event or transaction should have occurred. An example of this type of attack would be a user performing a prohibited operation in a system that lacks the ability to trace. Backdoors. A backdoor is a method of bypassing normal authentication or encryption in a computer system. A hardware or software-based hidden entrance to a computer system that can be used to bypass the system's security policies. Using a known or through newly discovered access mechanism, an attacker can gain access to a system or network resource through a backdoor. There are several ways that backdoors can be placed on a computer. Opening an infected email attachment. They are often combined with viruses and worms. Exploiting a vulnerable, unpatched software application or operating system service. Next, active FTP server on the computer, especially one that allows anonymous sessions. Also, what is first brute force, also known as exhaustive key search and password attack? Try every possible combination of options of a password. Determining the difficulty of a brute force attack. The difficulty of a brute force attack depends on several factors such as how long can the key be, how many possible values can each component of the key have, how long will it take to attempt each key, is there a mechanism which will lock the attacker out after a number of failed attempts. Dictionary is another form of the brute force attack. Dictionary attack narrows the field by selecting specific accounts to attack and uses a list of commonly used passwords, the dictionary with which to guess instead of random combination. Spoofing. Spoofing is an attempt to gain access to a system by pretending as an authorized user. by gaining the IP address of the trusted host and then modify the packet header so that it appears that the packets are coming from that host. So here what happens is that we will think that it is coming from the trusted host, but it is not. Okay, that is IP spoofing. We have different types: ARP spoofing, email spoofing. What is IP spoofing? Inserting the IP address of an authorized user into the transmission of an unauthorized user in order to gain illegal access to a computer system is called IP spoofing. Routers and other firewall implementations can be programmed to identify this discrepancy. What is ARP poisoning? The principle of ARP spoofing is to send fake or spoofed ARP messages to an Ethernet LAN. Generally, the aim is to associate the attacker's MAC address with the IP address of another node, such as the default gate. Any traffic meant for that IP address would be mistakenly sent to the attacker instead. The attacker could then choose to forward the traffic to the actual default gateway, that is passive sniffing, or modify the data before forwarding it, man in the middle attack. So the attacker could also launch a denial of service attack against a victim by associating a non-existence to the IP address of the victim's default gateway. What is email spoofing? Email spoofing is a technique used in spam and phishing attacks to trick users into thinking a message came from a person or entity they either know or can trust. Example: a spoofed email may pretend to be from a well-known shopping website asking the recipient to provide sensitive data such as password or their credit card number. Thank you.